Well, hello, and welcome to Brother Blades and More. Friends, today is Memorial Day, the day that we honor those who have given their greatest measure, given their very life's blood in defense of democracy and liberating those that are oppressed. I know oftentimes we can be a little cynical and ask, well, how does this affect us as Americans? How does it threaten our shores, our borders, our country? To tell you the truth, friends, sometimes we have to take the war to the enemy instead of waiting for the enemy to bring the war here. I remember years ago, my mother had a lady working for us, and she was English. And she was a little girl during World War II and talked about having to hide in the tubes, as they call it, in the tunnels of the subway system as these terrible V-1 and V-2 rockets were flying into England there and causing so much destruction and killing the innocent. And she was praising the American armed forces that came to their rescue. And at one point she told me that they were ready to divide England in half and give Germany both halves. And she thanked God for those who answered the call from the big cities and farmland of this country that came to be a part of something greater than just defending this nation. They were defending the world against oppression. And I thank God for these people. Today I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you about someone that I never met, but I'm very close to. As a young man, 8, 9 years old, I finally put together that my uncles and aunts on my father's side were actually my father's brothers and sisters. Now, I know that's just a natural occurrence now, but when you're young, you really don't think about those things. So at one point, I asked my father how many brothers and sisters he had, and he told me, and I think there were 3 boys and 4 girls, something like that. And he said, at the end of this sentence, he said, and of course there was Boyd Jr. Well, I did not know who Boyd Jr. was. I know that my grandfather's name was Boyd, but I didn't know who Junior was. And it just so happened that I was named after my father, which made me a junior. So I was curious about Boyd Jr. And I started asking my father about this man. And my father said that he had been killed in the war and that we were never to mention him around my grandfather. And I didn't quite understand that. But anyway, as years went along, I think on one occasion I heard my grandfather mention Boyd Jr., and when he did, he became very somber. He hung his head, and I saw tears form in his eyes, well up in his eyes, and it touched me. It touched me. But as the years go along, things like that you put away and you don't think about it. And I lost my father when I was 12, and my plate was full with dealing with that and other things. And so, I guess maybe a month or so back, I remembered that my grandfather was a World War I veteran. In fact, he was stationed here at Camp Shelby in Hattiesburg, where I live, for a certain amount of time. In fact, he was involved with constructing the very first permanent structure there, which was a mess hall. And from there, I think he went to Fort Stewart, Georgia, and became a machine gun instructor during the First World War. And I think he mustered out as a sergeant. So I was looking up my grandfather's record, and when I typed in Boyd Wiseman, my grandfather's name, Boyd Jr.'s name came up as well, and there was a plaque at his graveside that showed his information when he was born, and then I saw something with some additional information that kind of set me back. I did not realize this. Boyd Jr. Was in the Navy, and he was involved with the invasion of southern Italy when we decided to liberate those wonderful people there. Anyway, he was killed in that action. And what I noted was when he was killed, he was 17 years old. 17. Which means, if you do the math, when he went into naval boot camp, there was a very good chance he was only maybe 16 years old. And since our military, our selective service does not draft young men at 16, that meant that my grandfather would have to sign for him to join. And then all these memories started flooding back about how somber my grandfather was and how it affected him so deeply, and how we were to never mention Boyd Jr.'s name because it brought up some very, very emotional memories. I'm sure that Boyd Jr. wanted to follow his father's footsteps and do his part in military service. So my grandfather more than likely signed for him to leave the safety of his home in West Virginia to go to boot camp and then to be stationed in the U.S. Navy aboard some type of vessel, I'm sure. And that poor young man lost his life in the middle of all that. But you know, the wonderful thing about it, at the instant that his soul escaped his body, his troubles were over with. All trauma, all fear, all terror was gone. And yet it left his father to mourn him the rest of his life. Friends, Memorial Day is a day that we remember those who have lost their lives, but let us not forget to pray for those who still suffer with those painful memories. Those woulda, coulda, and shouldas. Those things will drive you crazy. Anyway, y'all just remember sometime today during the trips to the pool, between the hot dogs and hamburgers and the homemade ice cream, crawfish, whatever you do on a day like today, just remember to take a moment and thank God for what you have. Let us count our blessings and forget about our curses. Let us remember those who gave their full measure. And most of all, let me leave you with Godspeed, dear friends. Godspeed.